Well, welcome everyone to the Streets, Infrastructure, Parks, and Public Spaces Committee. So we combine the Streets and Infrastructure and the Parks Committees. This is the first official meeting of that kind of new mega committee. We've got 4 topics on the agenda. I'm going to go ahead and go in order. So the first one is just kind of information for everyone of something that's coming up that I'm kind of excited about. So last week, Noah, the Safety Service Director, called me, sorry, my brain is fried with this baby here, to let me know that Norwood is partnering with the Congress for New Urbanism to do a study about cycling infrastructure in Norwood. So what this would do is not involve any city money. This is all money that would come from this organization and a couple of other ones, but they will be getting feedback from Norwood residents the week of February the 20th. There'll be a couple of days where they will be actively seeking input, and then the Congress will work on a plan and submit that plan to Norwood free of charge. So this is basically $100,000 worth of work that we will get. Now, we don't have to implement the plan. There's no contingencies here. If we don't like it, we're like, oh, okay. It's just information that we will have, but having a plan makes it so that we are more competitive for grants if we want to include cycling infrastructure in future streets projects, and also just gives us an idea of what people want to see, where people actually bike right now, especially with the Wasson Way expansion coming in through Xavier, connecting kind of the east part with the west part. I think that this will be a really good resource for us to have, and the fact that we don't have to pay any money for it is, I'm always a fan of that. If people want to give us plans for free, I'd say take them all. So, anyone have any questions about that? If you go to the Congress for New Urbanism, which is cnu.org, I'm trying to get the exact wordage, but they have a little bit about what they're going to be doing for Norwood. It's being held in Cincinnati, which is one of the reasons why Norwood is being a part of this, since it'll be right here. So Noah will have more information about that, or you can email me or talk to me if you want more information about that. It's kind of neat.
Are they taking care of the information on when they'll be gathering the data, or is that something the city's going to have to?
I think the city's going to spread the word, but they are organizing the meeting itself. The city is not doing that because it'll be those folks that collect the information and process it. So we'll be a part of it, but not the main part of it, which is good. All right, any other questions? Great. Cool. So the next thing, we're going to talk about the ordinance that's currently back in committee about alcohol permits in the park. So just a brief synopsis. So this ordinance would allow people who are getting permits at any of the shelters in our parks to have alcohol at those shelters and picnic areas. They would have to still apply through the recreation department to get those permits. One thing that we want to change, or that has been brought up, is that in 2021, council passed an ordinance, which I put a copy of here. I'm actually just going to give this to everyone out here so you know what we're talking about. Here. So this is an ordinance that was passed a couple years ago, basically saying that due to the memorial in the park, the last section is the relevant part to us, where it says there can't be any alcohol in the park. It should be a family-friendly events only. So my idea for this particular new ordinance is just to say, add a clause pursuant to Ordinance 38-2021, Victory Park is excluded from the list of parks where these permits would be allowed. And then basically we can keep the rest of the language as the same and just exclude Victory Park from this at this point. So that is what my feeling was, but I know we have some folks in the gallery. So if anyone would like to come up and talk about this ordinance or Victory Park, then I would love to hear you. Yeah, I didn't have a formal sign-up sheet or anything, so just whoever would like to go first. You know, we don't have a time limit here, so.
I'm Dave Benz, representing the Victory Park Veterans Association associated with the American Legion here in Norwood. To recap for those that aren't aware, when this issue came up years ago, Victor Snyder agreed with us that this being a memorial park in opposition to a playground type of park, that he would not support alcohol in that park. Now I know you drive by there about every evening, you're going to see somebody laying in there and drinking alcohol. That's going to happen from time to time. But to open the park up, you know, back in the days when we had summer days and all that other stuff up there at the park, I mean, it was great attendance, everybody had a great time. But the back part of that park was completely destroyed. It took us forever to get the grass back in the park. Public Works did their best to clean up what they could clean up. That's why it was moved to Waterworks. And then later on, the Taste of Norwood happened on Sherman Avenue, which I'm sure a lot of you folks may remember. That about put the summer days in bankruptcy due to some commitments made by the then mayor to people that we had no knowledge of. And while we were sponsoring that group, you know, that we were sponsoring that as a fundraiser for summer days. Cleaning up his mess cost us a bunch of money. So essentially, from that point forward, we paid our obligations, paid his obligations, and so we have been inactive since that date. And we have just recently taken the leftover funds that were in there and split it amongst 3 local Norwood organizations, being the community center. What else was it? Well, it was a senior center, actually. Norwood up at Victory Park, or not Victory Park, the one on Cypress. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Fenwick.
Linder Park.
Oh, Linder. Yeah, Linder is on Cypress. Thank you.
There, Norwood Historical Society, and the American Legion. So, you know, since then, there's been no activity from our group. Actually, I've been up there when that was in Norwood time. I don't know who was sponsoring the group, but folks had beer vendors and other vendors up there, and they were walking through the park, you know, with, it seemed like nowhere in the park was safe. Anyway, with the American Legion and the Victory Park Veterans Association, we've got a meeting next, I'm on the executive board for the American Legion up there. Next Tuesday, we have a meeting where we will discuss this and formally put together a position. But the bottom line is, everybody that I've talked to up there, they're in opposition to having alcohol in that park, as it's not a party park. It's a memorial park, and there's a huge difference. And I think if they were to move it to Waterworks Park, that would better serve the community and the city as well. Be significantly easier to clean up and no damage. So I sincerely hope that you consider returning to the original ordinance. The original ordinance stated that Norwood City Council would, or that alcohol in the park was something that was, any changes to the park, any changes to the park would have to be approved by the Victory Park Veterans Association. And then an ordinance was drawn up to change it from us having a real seat at the table to being advised of changes to the park. We opposed that ordinance because I think on its face it was written improperly, And the way it was done was not due to protocol and normal operating procedure. So you folks were kind enough to allow us to move that from last month to this month to give us time to respond, and we're grateful for that. Now, it's my understanding that a lot of the push on this is coming from that cidery across the street. I respect that. When you had things that were more in the street than in the park, I think it was great. I hope it was successful for everybody when they had those types of things going on. Mm-hmm. But alcohol in the park, we are firmly opposed to, and hope you take our point into consideration. Is there any questions?
Can I make a correction?
Yeah,
Where did this come from?
Initially, this came from Mr. Gabbard. I know that Northwood Cidery had the beer gardens in the street, as you said. When I was brought this by Mr. Gabbard, he just was more concerned about not Victory Park in specific, but just including more of the shelters in the whole city. So that is where this came from initially.
And see, when the change came up, to his word, Vic Snyder stated he didn't sign the ordinance. Now,
this was back in 2021.
I would have been more pleased had he vetoed it, obviously, and have you folks going over that, try to override his veto. But that being said, at least he didn't sign it, and that showed well for the mayor, in my opinion. But
yeah, so this was the original ordinance regarding Victory Park that was passed in July of 2021. In this case, yes.
I don't have
I just have
anything
a
in front
copy
of
of
me,
it
but I
over there.
think that's
So, yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it. No, thank you for coming and your input. So
Well, I appreciate you folks looking at it for us, and we got our fingers crossed. When we meet next week, I'll try and get a position letter together and send it to you folks officially. But thanks for your time.
Yeah, and this won't, anything that we talk about today won't be on the council agenda tomorrow. It's just a really quick turnaround. So anything that we would talk about here would be in 2 weeks at the next council meeting.
Very well. Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else would like to talk about this ordinance or Victory Park? You're welcome to.
I'd love to. My name is Janie Sickinger, and I'm on the board of Off Pike Market. We are the nonprofit that activates Victory Park. Mm-hmm. So the bands that you saw, we teamed up not only with Norwood together, but with the Cidery to make a central location where families could come and enjoy the space. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to explain what I see on a regular basis, because I'm there every Thursday, Friday before our markets, cleaning up the homeless population, the beer, the cigarettes, they defecate. It's disgusting. It's horrible what we have to do to clean it up. And when I heard, Mr. Benz, when I heard you say that you saw people walking around, it couldn't have been from our market, because we had a contained area, we had police presence, we have done everything right, we've done everything that we know to do, but what we're trying to do is provide a free activity for our families and for the community. That's all we're doing. We're a nonprofit. We don't have any money. We don't take on salaries. Tay and I do not take on salaries, and we're just trying to do something really nice for the city. That's the only intention we have. And on those isolated times when we had three bands, that's when people were sitting up in the park. It was totally activated. Children were running around playing. We had a kid zone. We had the Jenga set up, bubbles everywhere. And we actually saw families sitting on blankets enjoying our park. I totally respect the idea that a memorial is in the front. I get that. But I think that the focus should be on cleaning up the park, the problem we have in hand now, and I see it constantly. And I think that if we ask the Cidery, they're the ones who are in constant contact with the police, letting them know, hey, John Doe's back over there again, he's dealing out of the tank. They had drugs in the tank. And we see this. So I guess what I'm suggesting is we take a step back, take a deep breath, and come up with a better solution. There has to be a reasonable solution for this. Perhaps a split rail fence that divides where the playground, you know, where the playground equipment is, that's horrible. Maybe we do it there, so most of it is the memorial. That would close it down right there. Have a 8-foot gate so that Public Works could get in and out of that area. Maybe that would keep, I don't think it would keep the homeless or the drug users out of it. I don't think anything will. But activation is what's going to take care of it. And I can tell you that when we have our markets, they scurry like roaches. It happens immediately. When these families and kids come up there and they're running through the park, that should make us happy, because that's what we want. And if we don't continue doing what we're doing at Victory Park and on Mills, it's going to go right back to where it was. I guarantee it'll happen by the summer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jean. Anyone else like to come up and speak about this issue or anything else with Victory Park?
Hi there. I'm Taylor Provins. I'm also a part of Off Pike Market. We are our own nonprofit. We are not affiliated with any other nonprofit. That does not mean we don't partner with people, but yeah, we are our own thing. We've been around since 2017, which is hard to believe. I've lived in Norwood. Oh gosh, I've lived in Norwood. Okay, I've been married 10 years. I've lived in Norwood then 9 years. And I remember one of the first things my husband and I did was we drove down Montgomery because we were new to Norwood. We were really excited. We wanted to see what was in our new city, our first home together. And I remember seeing Victory Park and thinking, number one, I love that we have a memorial of people from our city who I do not know, but who gave their lives or went and fought for our country. Number two, I thought that building behind the memorial is fantastic. What can we do with it? And then number three, I thought, I am heartbroken at the way the memorial is being treated by the people who were drinking and who were passed out. And I just my heart hurt, because I think those men and women whose names are on those bricks, they fought for something so big. So when we decided to move Off Pike Market to Mills Avenue, it was because we found that Victory Park was the heart of our city. It's the middle of our city. It's where we can pull people from almost all the wards. Unfortunately, Ward 4 is still a little far out there for us, but to come and enjoy a market. Everyone deserves to have something fun to do in the summer. And what I've noticed with the market is when we get there and we clean up, you know, the broken glass, the cigarettes, the beer bottles, the feces, and we hose down the urine. It's heartbreaking to me that that's how that park is treated when it's not activated. What I have seen ever since we've had our markets up there is I have seen families walking through the memorial. I get all choked up because I just think that's such a special thing to do with your family. I remember doing it with my family in Washington, D.C., and like learning so much about our country and where we're from. And I see families reading the names and telling their kids about why this is here. Why is this super cool tank here? You know, to a 2-year-old, he's just like, oh my gosh, but hearing the why behind it. And that has, I think, been the biggest surprise of moving the market and activating that park, is the respect that has been brought back to that memorial, and that it should absolutely have. Nobody wants to see that memorial go away, but that is a huge space that should be filled with laughter, because the men and women whose names are on those bricks, that's what they fought for. My brother-in-law is full-time Army, an Army Ranger. My husband is an Air Force reservist, and I take what they do very, very seriously, and I think it's very, very important, and I think it needs to be respected. We brought the market to Mills Avenue to activate that park out of respect for the men and women whose names are on those bricks. I also want to say we have had very successful markets where we have had a beer garden in the street directly next to the memorial, and we have had no issues. The police were never called on any of the patrons of our market. because they were acting in a dangerous or unsafe way due to the alcohol that was being sold there. The alcohol that's being sold there too, we're not selling alcohol for $2 a cup. This isn't frat party time anymore. We're selling, I mean, the alcohol I believe is being sold for between $6 and $12 a drink. So I don't know. You're having a cocktail, maybe two, with your kids there as well. We have a face painter. This is very kid friendly. So it has been a huge success. And I would say this summer at our 2023 markets, our best market probably brought about 400 to 450 people to that park. And they were there. There was alcohol being served, and there were no issues. When it comes to cleanup, Norwood Public Works is amazing. They are in constant contact with me and Jeannie. Me and Jeannie are also volunteers. We do not get paid, we do not get kickbacks, we get nothing. We want to do this for our community because we think our community deserves a central location where everybody gets to go to a market, get their face painted, have a beverage, meet with their community, and have a good time. It's been really fun though to watch people go and respect the memorial for what the memorial is during that time. I remember one more thing, and I'll let you guys go. See, I'm now in my storytelling. The very first market we had up at Victory Park, and I don't know who the man was. He was a very, very elderly man. He walked with me around the park, the memorial, the park, and he was pointing to different locations at the park. I mean, he was an old man. He was probably in his 80s, and he was reminiscing about his time, in his like 20s, when he would bring so-and-so up to the park, and they had a bandstand up there. There's actually it's kind of covered over with grass now, but you can see where there was a bandstand built up, and there would be live music that it was like every Saturday night, and we would come and we would dance and we would laugh, and it just warmed my heart, because that is what the heart of our city should look like. It should not look like people drunk, passed out, defecating, drinking illegally in the park and selling drugs. It should look like what it looks like when our market activates the park. Families respecting the memorial, teaching their kids about why that memorial is there, laughing and giggling. Even that playground equipment is dangerous, really ugly. Those kids are over there having a great time on it. That is what the heart of our city should look like. And my hope is that it looks like that more often. So that's all I must say. Thank you.
All right, anyone else like to come up and, thank you.
Hello, my name is Vicki Gary. I'm a 31-year resident of Norwood. What I have to say is I'm speaking on my behalf, not for any group that I am a member of. In fact, any group I'm a member of has not taken any position or discussed alcohol in any of the parks, but I would like to address alcohol in Victory Park specifically. Several years ago, my family went on vacation, and we were honored to be able to go to Normandy. We went to the beaches. We went to see Omaha Beach, and I remember asking our tour guide, I was so surprised because there were families that were in the water. They were basically swimming, and there were towels out, they were picnicking, and I was surprised because I had never been there before, but my image was I was going to see just this sand with no people, and that it would be a memorial, or what I thought of as a memorial. And I said, what are these people doing on the beach? And why do they allow that? And he said, of course they allow that. And he was like shocked at me. This was a French resident, and he said, of course they do. He said, that is why those men lost their lives. He said they would have wanted them to go and to be able to use that property. And so you can go home, you can Google, because I did it today, Omaha Beach and swimming, and you will see that yes, people do swim. I saw it with my own eyes. And that made me really stop to think about our soldiers, what they did. They lost their lives. They served for us, served for the French. You know, we have this park, and we have a memorial there. We also have, there's kind of a line of demarcation, if you will, with a sidewalk going down there that is a natural kind of point where you could distinguish between the memorial itself and what kind of Mr. Bentz referred to as a fun park. I want to see the memorial stay forever and ever up there. It just needs to be. But I do think that it's possible for Norwood to use that space, the other space, for recreational purposes, such as having safe playground equipment, having bands come, having plays come. A few years ago, there was the Shakespeare in the Park did a production, or I think they've done a few up there. I saw a sitting, I won't say who it was, sitting Ohio Supreme Court Justice, sitting, watching with his family, drinking wine. Yeah, he was violating the law. He didn't know, but it was nice to see that we had an Ohio Supreme Court Justice in our city enjoying something with his family. That's the kind of thing I think we can continue doing. As far as people getting drunk and making a mess, we have an excellent police department. That was one of the reasons why Tim and I moved here 31 years ago, was because of our police and fire department. And if there's a problem, all we have to do is call. They will be over in a matter of seconds. They're just right over here. We all know that. They'll be over if there's any issue with any kind of alcohol abuse, any kind of violence, breaking out, any kind of issues that aren't what I would call family friendly, things that we don't want to happen in the park. So I understand, Mr. Bentz, I appreciate your service. I appreciate the veteran service. But I really do think there is a way that we can honor our veterans and also use that park, and also in the summer when it's hot, have a glass of wine or beer or cider or something, you know, with our families. Not sit there and try to get inebriated. And you know, I think that we do have to be creative, and I would ask that you go back and talk to the veterans and talk to them about Omaha Beach and how it's used, and how there can be another way to see it. It's not that we're trying to say that we don't care about the veterans. That's not it at all. And like a couple of, you know, Taylor said, we have seen families that they will go up there with their children. They'll be there and they will walk through there very reverently, very respectfully, and talk to their children. That's a way our children learn about our veterans, about the veterans in our city, our neighbors, and it opens up conversation. And that's what we want, and that's what a memorial is supposed to be. But if it's just sitting there, I don't think families are going to continue to come up. If it's just a memorial and there can't be kind of any fun park type of use of it, it's just going to just kind of wither and die. You know, it'll be sacred, but no one will visit it. And I'm not a veteran, but I would think that our veterans would want the people of Norwood to be able to use our property, our public property that we all enjoy, we all pay for, in a good way that serves everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come up and say anything? Thank you, sir.
Hello, committee members. My name is Jeff Gurton, and while I am a sitting council member, I'm also a citizen and happen to be in the neighborhood and want to talk about this potential ordinance. Since we all have to talk about our stories of veterans. I am proud not to be a veteran, and the reason why is that my grandmother was extremely proud that my father was the first Girton name in generations to not go into the military. And she was very, very proud about that because that was the economics of our family. Is military was the only option until my dad changed things. I'm very frustrated with this ordinance, the one from 21, because my daughter deserves to use that park. And this ordinance says specifically that, and let me be clear, the ordinance not that's in front of council today, but the one from 21, that this ordinance declares that Victory Park is a family-friendly park. And to be very clear, one of the people who signed this was then person Councilman Gabbard. Recently, I tried to put on an event at the park and was told by not councilman, but by Director Gabbard of the Rec Commission Department not to do anything family friendly near the park. That if I was to do anything for this kids event that I was putting on, I needed to put it, and we were in the location. He generally pointed towards the pool, not the park. And so
The former pool specifically.
the old pool,
Yes.
not the park. Thank you. So I don't understand why I pay taxes to the city and I'm not allowed to use the park. When the city itself says the park is for family-friendly events, and the city itself says don't do family-friendly events in this park. I understand Mr. Gabbard was not ordering me to do something. I think Mr. Gabbard was talking about pressure in City Hall to do something with the park, and I think that's called corruption, since there is paperwork that says this has to be a family-friendly event or a family-friendly park, and then our employees say, well, there's a lot of pressure for me not to let family-friendly events in here, and so we need to fix this. Secondly, I'm the one who has told my daughter to stop playing. Like, I'm the only one during certain events that has told my daughter to stop playing around the memorial area, because that is a very, very important area for me. I want her to show respect, and I want to talk about all the people in my family who have died, and not from Norwood, but have died for our country. However, the last market that we had in October was the very first time that I have ever been in Victory Park and not cared to have visual eye contact on my daughter. And I cannot stress that enough as a parent. There were so many people, there was so much activity, there were so many people that I knew, people that I didn't know, but the park was alive and hopping. And it was the first time that I was in Victory Park and I didn't have constant eyes on my daughter. And so there has got to be a way that in the greatest country on earth, we can find a way to protect our great country by preserving the respect of our memorial and still allowing citizens who pay taxes to use our park to be a park. Lastly, you have a permit on this current proposal that's before us. I do agree that anything that is left behind and is destructive is a bad thing. By having a permit process, the city then can go after somebody who does bad behavior. We cannot let them do it again. We could go after them for breaking the permit, stipulations. And so this makes no sense to me why we have an ordinance that says this must be a family-friendly place, but our city itself, off of paper, says don't do family-friendly events in this park. So you all have work to do, and then of course I will see you tomorrow night at the council meeting.
All right. Anyone else? Sorry. All right.
Respond to a couple. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if anyone else was going to talk, so please.
Sorry, I'm late. Do I need to introduce myself?
No, you're not late at all.
Okay.
We were just having some open
Discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this past summer, I chaired the Holy Trinity Church Festival, where we serve alcohol on church grounds. It was a wild success, and we raised over $30,000 for the church. So serving alcohol was a big part of that. I am just moved back to Norwood recently, born and raised here, went out, saw the world, came back to my home. I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot, and I want to give back to the city where I graduated, where it has helped me thrive as a young adult. And as others have mentioned, watching Victory Park just not be used, homeless people, you know, if I go to the cidery and I walk outside, I get a little nervous because I don't know who's across the street that could come over, ask me for money. Maybe they're intoxicated, maybe they're not. And that's nerve-wracking. And so I want this park to turn into something that is family-friendly, something that can be used, and if alcohol is permitted to be served at large events that other citizens of Norwood are asking for. They're asking for Norwood Day that's put on by the Women's Business Club that I'm a part of, I'm on the board of. They're asking, bring it back to Norwood. Alcohol is a part of that event. It's a fundraiser for our club. And so being permitted to have events like that, to serve alcohol where the revenue then goes back to the city, it's not about disrespecting the veterans. It's about using the space that taxpayers pay for in a positive way to enhance the city. I know the police force was mentioned. If anything gets out of hand, that's why we hire security. That's why we pay police officers to be there. We had no issues at the Holy Trinity Festival this past summer. We hired police officers, Norwood police officers, to be there. They protected everyone that was there. Alcohol was consumed, and it was a great time. We have a children's area. The children enjoyed themselves while their parents enjoyed themselves with gambling and eating, spending their money. And it was a great time. Why can't we have that in the center of our city, where everyone can come, there's no religious affiliation, and anyone can come and request a permit? As an employee, I work for the rec center. I've been on that end of permitting the permits. Yes, that process needs to be looked at and enhanced better so that we have accountability if anything does go wrong. But these are the steps we need to take to get there. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. So, trying to think of how this typically works. So, Mr. Vince, you're welcome to come up and
Just a couple things.
give more
Clarify.
sense.
First of all, there's two people that has the key to that tank for where they can get into it to do anything. That's myself and Susie Henneke, who resides in Florida right now. So the fact that, I think the statement that they're selling drugs out of the tank is,
Yeah, not inside the tank, but in this case, someone was hiding them.
Yeah.
They were just being crappy, you know.
another thing, the Victory Park Veterans Association, in association with the American Legion, the Sons of the American Legion, and the auxiliary down there, we're the ones that come in there twice a year, replace all the plants that are down there. And the city, thank God, has helped us out by donating the mulch and stuff like that. And they do some cleanup. We've been up there, we edge around the bricks and edge around the sidewalks and stuff like that. So, I mean, we do what we can to maintain that. And everything that we do up there really doesn't cost the city a dime, you know. In the spring, we put colorful plants in, and in the fall, we put in the ones that will live through the winter. So, I mean, you know, we try to do what we can. And everything that you're suggesting is great. I mean, I can't take a thing away from it. The only thing, I was born and raised here. I lived here for 52 years till I had to move out to build me a ranch. But, you know, I know how things work. I was on city council here for 8 years, involved in politics here for 20. And Vicki, Gary, and I had a lot of conversations over those years and everything. Like I said, we're not opposed to groups using the park. When you talk about, you know, having bands and dances and stuff like that, that's what destroyed the park. That's where you could find a blade of grass with a search warrant in that back area. If you want to bring, you know, family-friendly things to the park, a couple of years ago, Donald Lake had a great idea with a splash park where the pool used to be. And if you don't think that place would be packed come this summer, you're nuts. I'm just suggesting that there are other venues. I recognize that you want the exposure. I get it. And I know that people driving down the street, will look up there and try and find a place to park. God forbid if they can't, to join your festivities. I've been up there when you've had your tents along, yeah. And I mean, they all appear to be, handled extremely well. I don't recall seeing any alcohol at that time.
We don't have alcohol in all of our events. We have it if we have a band, then we pull the permits and then we have alcohol.
Well, I respect that, but having that cidery right across the street, like I said, I think everything that you're proposing is great, and I love that you're thinking of the reasons why it should be that way. I would just appreciate it if you would consider keeping the alcohol in the street and out of the park. And like I said, I think that splash park or something like that is going to be more beneficial to the young ones in this community, to get them up there. I think should be more of that. So, I mean, I'm not going to bother you folks any further. I'll wait till we hear from you, or I can get something to you guys. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes. So
And I
thank you
really
all.
Appreciate you folks. Maybe I won't talk either.
Thank you all for coming and giving your feedback and your thoughts. It's really helpful for me, at least as a chairperson. I mean, ultimately, I think we're all in agreement that we want the park to be used in a respectful manner. And part of the way that we do that is just making sure that we can have these good events put on, with alcohol, or without. So Ms. Windrower.
I love all of this, but I want to take a step back. Yes, the cidery's there. I work there. I've seen Victory Park every day since last August. I won't mention all the things. I think that would be enough. And yes, the cidery's new. It's there. We sell alcohol. So does Speedway. So does Kroger. So does the Cappy's down the street. The park is not the cidery's. It's for people who want to rent it out and buy. You're at Kroger maybe, but I just wanted to clear that. But I have been able to see Victory Park. I guess I haven't been there as long as a lot of people, but when I first started working there in August, and I'm there every day, sometimes a lot of nights too. And there was a lot of activity that we saw that was not conducive to a park and a memorial. It was very, very upsetting. The police came in and have done an amazing job. So currently they have to walk through that park 6 times a day to make sure there's not drinking going on, to make sure there's not drugs being sold. I just saw our recent drug dealer drive by the other day. He didn't stop, thankfully. And it's sad too, because the people there need help. And Hamilton County Resources comes through a lot. I see Mr. Murphy there a lot, trying to help people who are there. And it has gotten better, but it's because our police officers have to walk through 6 times a day. And I would really like to put alcohol aside here, because I think the whole reason the rec department kind of approached this is the city needs help activating our parks. We need help. We don't have the money to put in a splash pad. We don't have the money to throw big bands. We rely on community groups to do that. So Mr. Bentz, when you guys meet, I would really love for you guys to brainstorm with that, because we need help. It's a beautiful park. That Marcus House just kind of sits there right now. I know the Historical Society wants to mark it as a historical building. I know so many people have amazing ideas. It's a beautiful grass lawn right now. There were some boys kicking a soccer ball in the parking lot the other day, and I'm like, go out to the grass. But the main reason for this, and alcohol and no alcohol in Victory Park, the main thing we need to do is we need help activating it. And the city needs help doing it. So via your meeting tomorrow, if you could really bring that up, because the more help, the better. We need help, and it's so amazing. I saw once the police were very consistent at Victory Park, there was a family on a blanket having a picnic, and it was wonderful. It's such a great asset to the city, and like Taylor said, it's the heart. I grew up in the military. I have generations of veterans in my family, 100% respect it. I just want you to kind of see where the city's coming from as well. And yeah, maybe alcohol isn't the answer, but we're just trying to find a solution to activate a beautiful space that deserves that respect.
Yes.
So I've got 2 points to make. I feel that I should acknowledge that I also work at the cidery. I'm our taproom manager, so I do everything in the front of house. And I'd like to preface this statement by saying that none of these opinions have anything to do with that, aside from the fact that I spend about half of my time at the cidery. So I do spend about half of my time looking at Victory Park. And that's given me kind of a unique perspective that I think Candace and I have both been able to really observe the goings on at the park more frequently than most people in the city. Secondly to that, I have about a decade of experience as a beverage industry professional. And what I will tell you, which I think that most people don't consider when they think about alcohol consumption, is that people who are most concerned about safely consuming alcohol are the people who are serving the alcohol. So with that being where my kind of perspective is coming from, what I will say is what has made Victory Park more pleasant to be around and in is activations. What's keeping people out of the park and keeping people from drug dealing in the park and passing out in the park or vomiting at 9 a.m. in the park is other people's presence in the park. And currently, I think we need to maybe take just like a little bit of the emotion out of the thought process here and see that a barrier for people renting the picnic space in that park is that they cannot consume alcohol. So if someone's throwing a birthday party and they're considering Victory Park as the location where they may do that, which would then take up an entire day, would give the police less reasons to stop by and patrol the park because there are already people there who are having a celebration. They may choose to not do it there because they can't have their Rhinegeist truth or whatever else. I am concerned with people's safety at all times when it comes to alcohol consumption. We're not looking for anyone to be belligerent because of consuming alcohol in the parks. We're just looking for people to be able to throw the celebrations that they would like to in a safe way where there's a person who can be held accountable. So because these are permitted events, we're not having just random people walking through the parks with alcohol consumption. There is a point person who can be the person who's being held accountable for the behavior of the people who are consuming alcohol potentially in this space. I would love to see that park as activated as possible in ways that respect the memorial and the history of the location. And I think that while I really appreciate this amendment to the ordinance that would exclude Victory Park, I think that Victory Park is one of the parks that needs the most help in our city. And I think that there certainly is a middle ground somewhere, and I'm appreciative of that of everybody here so that we can find what that middle ground is that's gonna make the best use of this space. But I do think we need to consider what barriers currently exist for people making use of that space and how we can most ease those barriers.
Okay, great. So just to come back to the ordinance that is currently on the table, I just want to read out the language of it so that everyone knows. It's different than the ones that I was doing there. That's from like 2 years ago. So in this case, to do as used in this chapter, certain words are defined as follows: alcoholic beverage, it's alcoholic beverages. City parks and playgrounds, it lists every single park and playground in the city. Picnic area would include all areas designated as picnic area by the Norwood Recreation Director and posted for rental. Then it goes on to define person and glass beverage container, just as a matter of course in most parks, not only here, but in Cincinnati. Glass, no matter if there's alcohol in it or not, problematic because it breaks and then you can never clean it up. Not great. So, one thing that I think would be helpful in light of this previous ordinance from 2021 is for right now, keeping this particular ordinance as is, but saying pursuant to this other ordinance, we're excluding Victory Park from the list of parks that would be allowed an alcohol permit. This would allow us to rent out the rest of the parks as usual as soon as we get this passed. I don't want to, because there's a discussion ongoing, I feel like I don't want to accidentally break or be in Thank you, words are hard. Be in non-compliance with this other ordinance, which would open us up to issues with people suing the city potentially. So that is my idea, just to kind of get this going at the other parks. Then we can revisit this ordinance with the input of the American Legion, since then they will have time to have met. We can continue this discussion at other meetings and figure out how we might best use Victory Park, not only as a memorial, but as something that people are using more often, and making it so that this park is a real gem of our city and not just somewhere that you want to actively avoid. Does that make sense to everyone here? Okay, that was kind of my feeling, simply because with this previous ordinance in place, I didn't know how best to not be in compliance with the law, or how best to continue to be in compliance with previous ordinances. But I would welcome anyone else's input on this. This is just one woman's slightly addled brain trying to do the best in this situation. I also want to say I'm not employed by the cidery.
Me neither.
Yeah. So,
I'm feeling very excluded.
Yeah.
I am in full support of this. I think that we need more time and more input in order to make their best educated choice regarding Victory Park. And I would hate for that to hold up any progress that we might make in other parks.
Yeah, because this is a contentious issue, I feel like there is a way forward that will be pretty good for all parties involved, and maybe we just need a little more time. This will allow people to rent other parks. You know, I can take this back to the law department, say, hey, could you add this one clause, or however is the best way legally to do that. And then next time we can say, okay, well, let's revisit this previous ordinance. Let's see how we should we subdivide the park? Should we make it so the memorial is like a separate entity from the rest of the park, so that legally and in practice they are separate things? I don't know what the best way is, but I felt like that would be my best idea at this point in time. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, cool. All right. Yes, and I apologize again for my words being bad. Doing my best. All right. So we have two other things on the agenda, and they're going to be relatively quick. So we've got, and again, this ordinance would not be tomorrow, it'll be 2 weeks from now. My suggestion would be that we would pass it in full 2 weeks from now, just to get it done, since we've had a pretty good discussion about, and no one really has any issues with any of the other parks or alcohol in permitted areas there. So the other one was just appointing a chair pro tem. So because of my issues, I will be away for a couple weeks at least. Yeah. That's what I call him, my issues. And so I didn't know if any of you would be willing to serve as chair pro tem for that time if there's a need for the infrastructure thing to be. Okay, thanks.
He is literally your issue.
He is my issue. So Candace, you can be pro tem. Then the last thing is just general discussion about infrastructure. If anyone had heard of anything or had any questions about upcoming streets, infrastructure, parks, recreation stuff going on.
I reached out to Mr. Powers, but he said to contact the tree board. There's a free application for Green Umbrella for cities to be able to access just environmental legislative work that other places have done. Similar to like the one that we have with that we share with other cities. So they have one there. So I wanted to reach out to the tree board and see if they had made that application. It's a participation member.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's free.
Yeah.
I figured might as well. So I know the tree board and all that's kind of separate, but that's one thing that I was trying to look into.
Yeah, so it might be worth like emailing the tree board and saying, hey, would you want to apply for this?
Yeah.
Since it's free, I feel like it would be a good thing.
Just see if they want to
yeah.
utilize it.
Mhm.
If they don't want to utilize it, then I'm like, we could, Yeah. But again, it's just a lot of shared legislative work that has been successful in other similar areas.
Okay. Cool. Other stuff, just for update, I checked with Noah. Smith Road's getting started March, April this year. the repaving, it is coming. When it starts, I will cry just a little bit, especially when Smith Road gets going. So, hey, anything else for the good of the? Yes.
I know we had previously talked about some streets that needed painting, or like the markings on the street needed painting.
Yes.
Right, and then also, this was a previous meeting, but it was Robertson over by Factory 52, and like, I don't think it ever got painted, because those lines are still really hard to see. I know that was one of our solutions for the
Yeah.
traffic there, or no, just.
It did get painted, but yeah,
It faded that
it faded
fast.
really fast.
That's
So,
upsetting.
at least I was told it was painted,
Okay.
but I can contact Clint and make sure that it was painted. Yeah.
Sherman, on the Kroger side of Sherman, could also very drastically use a coat of paint.
Somebody can give us maybe.
Eventually, but we need it
Right
now.
You just cannot.
They're already
Maybe it's
outlined.
my astigmatism.
Oh, no, it's-
So we had a resident also come to city council and bring that up, and
Yeah.
we were just slow to have infrastructure meetings at the end of
Yes.
this
Yeah.
year.
For some
so-
reason.
No, no, not you.
Yeah. So no, I can.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I was thinking we have.
Okay, Chair Pro Tem, you're welcome. Yeah, I would
So
say
we
email
just need to reach out
Yep.
to Clint. is-
email Clint about
okay,
that
the solution.
Okay.
and make sure that we can follow up here in a week or two and see when it is able to get done. Because I know sometimes the paint is temperature and weather dependent, whether they can put it down or not.
So Factory 52 and then Sherman right by
Sherman
Kroger.
is very bad.
And
Yeah.
we're McDonald's.
Sherman by-
Like Fifth Third and
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah, that whole
Yeah.
little.
People who are not familiar with that road.
It looks
I would
like-
guess don't know there's multiple.
There could be
lanes.
2 or 3
I
lanes.
am familiar with that road, and I
And
do
still
have it. If
sometimes.
it's dark outside,
Yeah.
your guess
Yeah.
is as good as mine. What lane I'm in?
All right. Cool. So, yes. Cool. If that is all, then we will declare this meeting over. And thank you all for coming. Thanks for those that spoke. Have a good day.